claiming he didn't sign it. He said other people handled it and he didn't know how it was signed. Here's what Donald Trump said moments ago outside of the White House to reporters. This was truly a stunning moment.
Because we want to get criminals out of our country, number one, and I don't know when it was signed because I didn't sign it. Other people handled it, but Marco Rubio's done a great job. And he wanted him out, and we go along with that.
Caroline Leavitt held a press conference in the White House shortly after Donald Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act, and she says, President Trump signed the proclamation.
What happens when the President of the United States doesn't remember signing one of the most controversial orders of his presidency? We're about to find out as Trump claims he never signed the War Powers order that bears his signature in the Federal Register. People are literally being deported right now based on a document Trump says he didn't sign. Meanwhile, Judge Boasberg is calling the whole thing incredibly troublesome. If the president can deny signing his own orders, what does that mean for our democracy and who's really running the country? Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Ever notice how Trump loves to brag about things when they're popular, but suddenly develops amnesia when they're not? The man who never stops talking about his accomplishments suddenly can't remember signing one of the most controversial orders of his presidency. Let's talk about his latest memory lapse.
The president signed a proclamation invoking the Alien Enemies Act against Tren de Aragua members who have invaded our country. These are the most violent, heinous criminal monsters.
The most dangerous, violent people, she said, have been sent to El Salvador. I want to play this, then I want to fact check it.
Taken the lives of innocent American women like Jocelyn Nungre and Laken Riley, and the president invoked this authority to deport nearly 300 of them who are now in El Salvador, where they will be behind bars.
The calendar tells us it was March 14th, 2025, when Trump signed the order invoking the Alien Enemies Act. By March 20th, this signature was officially recorded in the Federal Register with all the presidential pomp and circumstance. By the President of the United States of America. Pretty clear, right? Well, not if you ask Trump. Just one day after it appeared in the Federal Register, Trump pulled his classic "wasn't me" routine. When reporters started asking tough questions about the order, Trump suddenly couldn't remember putting pen to paper.
Donald Trump is now claiming that he did not sign the invocation of war powers under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 on March 15, 2025. And there's his signature saying, "In witness whereof I have signed this." It's in the Federal Register, dated Thursday, March 20th, 2025, under presidential documents, despite the fact that Donald Trump's name is on the invocation of the Alien Enemies Act. You see right there, it says, by the President of the United States of America.
I don't know when it was signed because I didn't sign it. Other people handled it, he claimed with a straight face. Sure, Donnie. And I suppose those McDonald's wrappers in your trash just appeared by magic. The White House scrambled like a cat on a hot tin roof trying to clean up this mess. First, they tried claiming Trump was referring to the original 1798 law, which, unless Trump is secretly 225 years old, he obviously didn't sign. When that ridiculous explanation flopped, they finally admitted what was obvious to everyone with functioning eyeballs. Yes, Trump actually did sign the order to deport what they dramatically called these heinous criminals. This whole fiasco gets even juicier when you remember Trump's own press team had been bragging about the order. They were practically throwing a parade over Trump's bold action right up until the moment it started looking like a legal disaster. Then suddenly, nobody knows nothing about nothing.
At the president's direction, the Department of Homeland Security carried out a counter-terrorism operation deporting nearly 200 violent Tren de Aragua terrorists, which will save countless. President Trump signed a proclamation invoking the Alien Enemies Act regarding the invasion of the United States by the foreign terrorist organization, Tren de Aragua.
Here's Caroline Leavitt. Shortly after that, she goes on state regime media known as Fox with Maria Bartiromo, and she says Donald Trump signed this proclamation.
The Federal Register doesn't lie. Trump's signature is right there in black and white. It's like being caught on security cameras stealing cookies from the jar, then claiming your evil twin must have done it. What makes this denial especially suspicious is the timing. Judge Boasberg had just described the administration's actions as incredibly troublesome troublesome and slammed the Department of Justice's explanations as woefully insufficient. When the judge starts using words like that, it's not surprising Trump suddenly wants to play dumb.
Why I think Donald Trump's claiming that he did not sign this invocation of the Alien Enemies Act is that a lot of the individuals who ended up being kidnapped by the Trump regime were learning, for example, that political exiles of Venezuela, professional soccer players who were coaches who were here lawfully under our lawful asylum process. The Trump regime said their gang members picked them up, found them in the database because they were lawfully here seeking asylum, shipped them to concentration camps in El Salvador.
And it gets worse. Reports have emerged of wrongful deportations under this order, including a person who was deported because someone mistook their soccer-related tattoo for a gang symbol. Imagine being kicked out of the country because some officer couldn't tell the difference between a Real Madrid logo and a gang sign. That's like deporting someone for wearing a Yankees cap because you thought it was secret code for dangerous criminal. Like that, the irony meter explodes when you recall Trump's previous attacks on Biden for supposedly using an auto pen. Trump pompously declared that to use them for what they've used them for is terrible. Meanwhile, Trump himself admitted to using an auto pen for what he called very unimportant matters. I guess constitutional rights and due process fall under unimportant matters in Trump's book.
In the federal courts in Washington, D.C. today, where the federal judge Jeb Boasberg looks increasingly inclined to hold the Trump regime, as even the Department of Justice lawyer, when getting grilled by the chief federal judge in Washington, D.C., Judge Jeb Boasberg, said, "You were aware, right, that my order meant that you couldn't ship these people," in contempt. So I think what's happening here is Trump is throwing his own Department of Justice and his own DOJ lawyers under the bus now to try to blame them.
When the heat got too much, Trump did what he always does, found someone else to blame. This time, the bus rolled over Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He wanted them out, and we go along with that. Trump explained, as if the president is just some guy who happens to work at the White House rather than, you know, the president. This raises serious questions about who's actually running the government. If Trump isn't reading or remembering the orders he signs that affect thousands of lives, then who is? Is the most powerful office in the world being run on an "I'll sign whatever you put in front of me" basis? That's less presidential leadership and more rubber stamp theater. Behind Trump's signature denial is a brutal human cost. While he's busy playing "I didn't sign that" paper charades, asylum seekers are being shipped back to face potential persecution and violence under the Maduro regime in Venezuela. These aren't hypothetical consequences. These are real people with legal asylum status being sent back without even getting their day in court. So next time Trump tries his "wasn't me" routine, remember that someone's getting deported because of his policies. The Orange Menace can blame Rubio or other people all he wants, but that's not how being president works. When you're sitting in the big boy chair, you don't get to play dumb when your decisions hurt actual humans. Maybe Donnie Diapers needs a refresher course on what Commander-in-Chief actually means. It doesn't include a responsibility-free option.